Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Kiltz. I'm so thrilled to have you here this morning on my Carb Sober Sunday because, I sort of focus on that aspect of it for those who really know what foods they need to stop eating and what foods we need to concentrate on eating. Some have a difficult time doing that for the propensity to stay with our comfort foods, the foods, that we were brought up on and turned to. And some of us have we'll just say, disordered relationship with food that has come about through time. And I think that what I wanted our topic to be today is because I am heading into an April Lion Diet Challenge with many of my followers and subscribers here, because I feel there's times where I think it's good to kind of push yourself, challenge yourself, and do something what you consider very different and hard, whereas others, this kind of becomes a way of life. And I know with you, you tend to be beef, salt, and water for the most part. And I just wanted to open up the discussion because I feel like as two medical professionals, this is a great conversation to have for those out who might say, this is crazy. What are you guys doing? Why are you being so restrictive? And I feel it's so freeing. It's natural, it's healthy, it's simple. And I think a lot of times what happens is um, where, depending on where people are on their journey in this, because it really does evolve. But I have found that through time, I have leaned toward the ruminant meat, salt and water lion because of the simplicity, because of the food noise that gets removed. There's really no snacking. Are you hungry? Have a burger. Are you really hungry? Have a meal, have a steak. Snake's not ruminant meat. But yeah, so I have some questions that I'll kind of go through, but can you give me a little bit of your input on sort of that entry monologue I had there?
Well, obviously, we've all been eating food for a long time, and without it, we'd be dead. And most of us have been eating pretty much a plant protein, lean meat diet as fruit, fiber, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and lean meats for a long time. And then you throw in all the pizza, pasta, bread, and all the other culturally unique foods around the globe that we've all been raised with. And we've all been suffering arthritis, psoriasis, kidney stones, migraines, depression, anxiety, suicidality, and all those things. And for so many of us, we found we've all been working to be skinny and lose weight. And I never connected all the sort of the diseases with, the diet anyway, forever. And I personally sort of found Atkins and low carb living for a long time. And then I tripped over paleo and then keto. And about almost 15 years ago, I found this carnivore way of living, and it got better with all the other diets, all my diseases, but it was carnivore that really solved the problem. And as you say, it's sort of a very narrow, meat, salt, and water. The lion's diet, as our good friend Michaela Peterson sort of coined, or the proper human diet, as Ken Berry, Triple BE, bacon, butter, beef, eggs. But I always say, why someone lives a long time and doesn't get diseases, I don't know that answer completely. But as a physician, double board certified OBGYN, reproductive endocrinology, I think the lion's diet, or the really narrow ruminant meat, salt and water, is a game changer. I gave up coffee 2 years ago, technically, and I also pretty much gave up alcohol. I mean, rarely have a sip anyway. And those are the things that really have changed my life to mental clarity and strength. And I believe our evolutionary diet was carnivore, hunting, minimally gathering, and so
and potentially fishing. We could include seafood for those that were along the coastline, but
yeah, of course. I mean, I think that, but you ate the whole fish. You didn't eat the fillet. You did the work, right? And I think fishing personally came later. I think our evolution was a land hunter first. Fishing, quite honest, I think it's harder, but we could do it. We could do it, and things like that. Maybe that was part of our gathering for mollusks and along the seashore and things like that. And so we know that in our lifetimes, sodas, cokes, and things like that, and candy and cake and all the Nabisco items, and you could probably eat the candies, all the things that were just there. We went to the movies, we had popcorn, we had Halloween, we saved our candy forever.
we had Girl Scout cookies.
Girl Scout cookies for sure. There was always a pizza. I mean, I'm Italian, and I think we ate a very good diet, but we also ate cereals and salad
and oatmeal,
and which is a cereal essentially, oatmeal, oats, and things like that. And so I grew up in Los Angeles, kicked out of school in a gang, couldn't read, and I joined a gang because I needed protection where I lived. By the way, I was beat up all the time on my way to school, but I couldn't read. And I now look back at my migraines as a kid and my ADHD. It was all turned out to be the diet we've been eating. And let's just say we all have an addiction, but the addiction is to eating food. It's kind of like if you don't eat food or drink water or breathe air, you're dead. And so we're trying to sort of, I think, in your way of thinking, and is really narrow it down to what do you need as you work on your ability to either never touch some of those things or like, I'm capable of from time to time. Now, I feel comfortable with that from time to time, but not everyone is there at their moment. And my friend Mitch, our friend Mitch, was in the hospital with a stroke. In the hospital, they fed him all the stuff that brought his addiction back. And now he's kind of having some challenges at home clearing them up. And so, by in any moment, but think of all the drugs, the alcohol, the marijuana, the tobacco, which really have been pushed on us by our commercialized, medicalized, nutritionalized system that has been harming us. So I find that when I'm really, sometimes it's like, oh man, I got to really narrow it down. I just finished a 4-day fast. I do 1 meal a day in general, 2 to 3 a month, 5 to 7, usually quarterly. But that isn't sometimes without some challenges that I find refeeding or something like that. But the one thing I've learned in following you and so many others on this carnivore journey, because we need the community to help us all come back on track as we all may wander, because that's the nature of human life. But we're all here as brothers and sisters. All of us are on equal standing in life. There's no hierarchy, in my opinion. We are learning, well, what causes disease? And most of what I learned was your genetics. Now what I'm learning, no, it's your environment. No, now what I'm learning, it's truly what we've been taught to eat, and maximizing fatty meat, rare to raw, eliminating or minimizing the plants, eating them small amounts infrequently or not at all, is really that thing. And so I don't like to use the word addiction. You know that, but I do believe that some of us must find a nothing in a line in order to find our strength, that we either say, I'm never touching that, or like, what, I'm okay from having, for me, a bite of pizza, pasta, and bread. I never touch salad, from infrequent times, but small amounts, maybe. But I know what I shouldn't touch, which usually is spices and tomatoes and things like that.
Because of digestive issues.
Well, it's a combination. It's not only digestive, it's upper and lower respiratory issues, it's arthritic issues, it's immunologic issues, because quite commonly some of these things go right into my gullet and into my bloodstream quite nicely and easily. I don't have any problems, but I'll notice either I start runny nose, or sniffling and coughing, or a little bit of asthmatic symptoms, or man, my joints are hurting, my muscles are, or like I'm really stiff in the morning, because those are all inflammatory particles. Our good friend Sally Norton, toxic superfoods, which basically are plants. They don't want to die. They want to control and kill us. But yeah, sometimes they're also. I don't know. I ate really strict carnivore the other day after my 4-day fast, and boy, and I sometimes will get a little bit of gut issues and diarrhea. I haven't figured that out completely. Why after 4 or 5 days of nothing, I sometimes get a little upset stomach. And I'm saying, like, so you have to do really slow for most cases, but I'm not a slow guy.
Yeah. It's very tempting to jump in after a fast to grab that meal that you've been sort of exponentially craving as the days go on of not eating. So, as far as the ruminant meat topic, through my journey on this, it's really learning, number one, that it really has a higher nutrient density to begin with. And the multiple rumen stomach, how it better processes, let's say, the potential corn and soy feed that they're fed if we're not buying regenerative farm ranch, meat. But that, let's talk about, thoughts on chicken and pork. And I I find that most people end up saying, yeah, I really just lean toward beef, or, beef and lamb. And, my thought through time, I used to just have whatever, I mainly ate that. But if I ate pork, and chicken, I bought it. Maybe it was on sale. Maybe I'm trying to not have this be as costly, all those things. But then I started learning that the corn and soy feed of those animals is incorporated into their fat and muscle, and it's not so ideal for us, because they don't have multiple rumen stomachs to then really dramatically decrease that component, the omega-6, the high omega-6 that we really don't want. So, and that then becomes very pricey. If you go and buy a Iberico pork, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It almost literally tastes like steak, like beef, but really pricey. And then again, you get free range, pasture raised chicken, meat, or eggs. The price is so high. I'm like, I might as well be just eating my beef and lamb that are, really so good for me. So I hesitate to sometimes talk about that, because I don't want this to become something that, some people say, well, my local store on sale chicken and pork is what allows me to afford this lifestyle kind of thing. And I don't want anybody to like start, basically, get yourself to eating carnivore. But it's sort of a way of how I have gradually tweaked my thinking on this and what I actually naturally prefer.
We know that pig is an amazing animal. It proliferates very well, and if it's left in its wild state, it probably eats exactly the proper food. Because as I think Ken Berry, when we were in Memphis a few weeks ago with the Browns, which was really wonderful, it's these animals, when they're left free to roam and do what they're meant to do on the grasses or foraging like the Iberico ham pigs have done for centuries, and acorns, then we probably would be less of an issue. I mean, none of these animals ate corn, wheat, oats, rice,
Soy.
soy in their natural state anyway. And so I think beef is ultimately the best ruminant meat to eat. And if it's left to do exactly what it's left to do, then it's gonna graze on grasses that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. But those grasses don't even exist anyway. So so you got to wonder about that in our evolution of industrial farming and ranching. But I think there is a movement around the globe for more regenerative ranching techniques, both for cows, pigs, sheep, and other livestock that I think is healthy for us. I don't worry or think about the omega-6 to 3 ratio very much, in my opinion. I think it's another worry that you don't need to think about personally. I think that if you eat the fatty meat, but again, fatty meat, because most beef, lamb, and pig is raised to be lean. And so that's all you often can buy anyway. But I think that beef is best. I do bacon sometimes. I love a mix of beef and bacon and some organ meats inside, sort of an ancestral blend, which I think is really good. I don't know that I can tell you I've ever seen a disease I would cause, oh my God, this is omega-6 overload. Because I really think it's a plant protein, low fat diet is our really culprit. But I do think, I mean, we could not ever get as much plant oils as we do today as a hunter and gatherer 50, 100, 10,000 years ago, right? Or, somewhere in between there. And so, yes, stay away from the seed oils, focus on the fatty meat, know where your meat is coming from. I've been working with Bighorn Ranch up in Buffalo, Wyoming, with Mark McKinley's group up there, getting some really good all on the grass. And although there are some grains in the mix, it's small amounts in a short time at the end, fed on the land. And so they still have free range to that. I imagine that what do the bears and many animals fatten up doing? Eating the fruit of the plant, the seeds and the fruits. So I believe the acorn is part of the fruit of the plant. I think the seeds and fruits of the flowering plants are what the ruminants and the other animals go for. Monogastrics, like the pig does the same thing. If they're just allowed to do that, then I think you're going to get some really healthy food, and you're going to be fine. And staying away from you being a domesticated animal eating the ruminant and the non-ruminant seeds and nuts and fruits and vegetables is really our very best thing we could do.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of overthinking that goes on, and people feeling what am I doing wrong? I need to do this perfect. All of these mindsets that I keep coming back to. Simple is best. Lion diet seems to be very overwhelming of a thought for many, but in my experience, in my opinion, gradually over time, you will probably evolve to that. And the holdback really is, and I'll just say this, even though we all have 100% control over what we put in our mouth at any moment, but it's the socialization, it's the friends, the family, the coworkers, the events, just going out tends to be a very difficult struggle for many. And I will say it's totally doable because you're not really going to vegan places when you are socializing. You are going to be able to get a burger or a steak at just about all of these places. But it becomes very easy to start sliding down the slippery slope of just a bite, just a taste. Oh, I don't want to be awkward. Oh, I don't want to offend my host, or all these kind of things. And it sets people off the rails. I just got a message this morning from somebody who said, I was on carnivore, ketovore, and doing great, feeling great emotionally in my, relationships and in my work, and everything's going good, and fell off and is having a really tough time getting back. And it's so interesting. Like, the person knows how beneficial it was and the positive benefits, yet why? Why is it so tough to get back out of that, what I call the carb ditch? And, partly is the draw for that type of food once it starts triggering the dopamine and the memories and what we potentially have felt we've been depriving ourselves all along. And I say you have to really change that mindset. I'm not depriving myself. I have an amazing array of different cuts of meat, types of meat. I'm not bored, but I have to say, for me, most of my life, I lived a very disordered relationship with food. There is, I know, because I have, my groups where I try to discuss this whole abstinence thing, because unlike you as a moderator, Dr. Kiltz, many people moderate their way right into a very deep hole and have a hard time getting out. So,
yeah, I think that is a true statement, that we have very difficult times once we go down the slippery slope. But I think it's everyone needs to find their space and place. I am kind of been talking to the team a little bit and thinking more on inviting more of our keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean friends into the mix in a way to say, hey, listen, we want everyone to be part of this group in essence. And it's a conversation. It's like going to church. There's a whole range of how people think in their practice of their philosophy, spirituality, and religious beliefs. And so we need to be open to all of that. Certainly alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, I think have been overly pushed on us as okay. Marijuana, is it really good for us? No, it's not. And many people, I think, would find that, hey, listen, I want to keep watching the strictest of the strict. And maybe that's why we go to church, to see what's the signal we want to find, but we're all still part of the same family. And how do we sort of fit into those things and not be overly chastised, which again, I'm just talking on a line idea. And I know that, all right, alcohol is, I really, really, really want to say, nope, Okay, I'm going to have a little bit of my ice cream, once a week, twice a week, and I'm not losing my shirt over it. Okay, am I perfect? No, I'm not. All right. Once a month, I come down here with Miss T and I grab some croissants. Oh my God, I have a couple bites of a croissant with a ton of butter. I don't lose my shirt over it. All right. I think that we each need to find our set point for where we're at. But I do believe that the ultimate healing is a very narrow carnivore diet and being really strict on minimizing those other things if you can. If you can't, then you got to stick with the top of the line spiritual connection with carnivore diet and carnivore Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, which I think is important and really important is the community to go on the cruises, to join the meetups, to come and be there. And then if you've had problems that you want to share and what you want to do, you got to ask questions. You got to share your comments and speak up because we don't learn together. And it's kind of like going to the confessional, like, Heavenly Father, I have sinned. But it's not to say I get out of here. It's like, you know what? You're still part of the family. We love you. What can we all do to be better? And what did you suffer from? And what can we help you, on the straighter line? So I think that, we're not here. We're here that everyone's part of this community, and we're here want to help people. Maybe you're allergic to these things, and we want to help you eliminate those things and find some other things that you can have from time to time. But plants and carbohydrates are never required in the human diet. I will tell you that.
Yeah. And it's interesting. One of the things that you were speaking of, like different things that that you have found out you can moderate time to time. But something as simple as spices that I will say I'd say the majority of keto and carnivore use, let's say, multiple spices in their cooking, whether it's the slap your mama, whether it's the red seasoned salt, which is one of my favorite. It's, like paprika and celery salt in it and the Redmond's real salt. We can go on and on, either a little curry, a little Old Bay. And it's really interesting. A couple things that I have kind of discovered and learned along the way, just with looking into different things about eating habits, and that when you season your food, let's say with multiple spices, the taste profile is a little more explosive and might have a tendency to eat past satiety. There's that aspect of it. And that's why I always feel that not everybody at every moment, in their journey might not be ready for it now, but do a lion diet period of time. It's so really amazing, the knowledge you gain from going down to ruminant meat, salt, and water. Because for most people, even just going down to salt is like, whoa, and eliminating butter. It's like, whoa, and the coffee. Of course, we've already hit on that, but I know we have to actually talk about that a little bit more. But let's, like with the spices, it's so interesting. You found out spices a no-go. You know that. You got automatic feedback. My body doesn't, unfortunately. I almost wish I had a lot of negative feedback for all the times that I had tried, paleo and all these different things and slip off, and I didn't have the feedback. I'd slip off and it would take me time to figure out to climb back out to go no sugar, no flour at that point. But it's really interesting. And I'm not telling everybody out there, oh, you got to eliminate the spices now. I'm saying how beneficial it is to learn how beautiful the simplicity of not having recipes, not feeling compelled to snack because now there's no pork rinds, there's no melted cheese, chaffles, and all this stuff, right? It gets you down to bare basics. And I think it's really important as human animals to get ourselves down to that and experience it, and then decide, am I going to add eggs back in? And can I? And did it do anything after eliminating them to put eggs back in? Many people have allergies to egg whites. Many people have allergies to eggs in general. And I'd say most people tolerate eggs well, and they're a great nutrient dense food. But things like dairy, um, and and putting, let's say, coffee back in after eliminating, find out the benefits behind not being tied to an addictive substance and not being tied to, this is a seed that's roasted, partially burnt, crushed, boiling water, and we're bathing our microbiome in it day after day, multiple times a day. It does attach to the adenosine receptors. It does put your body in fight or flight. And believe me, I was an avid coffee drinker. I loved it. I love the aroma, the warmth, the ritual, so much about it, right? And I substitute it now. I enjoy hot water. I like some hot bone broth. And now I really just get up and I don't have anything. I don't need anything. I'm not going through this ritual of this process of getting this liquid into my body. And I don't know. I guess I've already segued onto the coffee topic. So I've had so many of my members who end up quitting it, and I'm not dogmatic about it. I say what works for you, but unless you really give yourself the opportunity to have real, true learning experiences, then you're I say doing a disservice.
What is the biggest drug that we're all sharing around the globe? It's coffee and tea. It's a collectively controlling drug. It's giving us energy. Well, no, it's a drug that's making you think you're given energy. It's a stimulant, and I think overall the teas and coffees are not good for us. I think they contain some mold and a lot of other
pesticides innately in it, not just topically put on the crops. It's actually within it. And tea, from a bunch of different things I've looked into about it, because so many ask, is tea better than coffee? Tea leaves actually, as they grow, preferentially absorb fluoride from the soil, and it's been said that it's actually worse than coffee. So
yeah, I agree with you that the biggest, but we can enjoy some of these things in small amounts from time to time. but they become our stop on your way to work in order to get your energy so you can be in the mix of the work that you've been pushed to do and in order to be overly productive, because that's the most important thing. And so the best thing I did was give up my daily consumption of any of these things. I had a cup of decaf coffee the other day at a meeting. It just like said, okay, I'll have a cup. And I can tell you, I've not had it I had it a year plus ago. I was on 1 month of decaf, very little. And then the year prior to that, I was on none. So I call myself a 2-year plus no coffee, even though I had little bits over, a small amount of time. I think, those now, a small amount of heroin, like that's going to kill you, or cocaine, that's going to kill you. And so there's some things that are less harmful and other things that are like, never do it. Now, if you have a peanut allergy, that's probably one you don't want to touch from time to time. But I think that what we're learning to do is become the wild type again. Stop being the domesticated animal. You now control what you put in your mind, in your mouth, and where you are going to hang out in your life. I choose to hang out with Lisa Wiedemann and all of my good friends here, and Healing Humanity and Meat Stock and whatever. There's infinitely so many people here that we can hang out with to learn what are some ideas that might, as a physician, like suddenly you don't need the medical system very often, and it would be a rare event that you might need the modern medical system. Even though I do believe there's many great things that we can do, but ultimately, if you look at human diseases, our sanitation, cleaning up our streets and our environment, our homes, and also cleaning up what we eat. And again, when we got to be careful about the word healthy, clean, organic. If I hear those words, I'm like, what? Those are all marketing terms that are all incorrect anyway. So I stay away from most of that stuff personally.
Yeah, and I have a comment over in the live chat here. I've eliminated coffee for periods of time, 90 days, 90 days one, 6 months another, and reintroduced half calf as a regular thing. I didn't notice any real measurable difference between the two. And I don't know whether you mean measurable difference between half calf and full calf, or the measurable difference between giving it up versus not giving it up. But you know what? There's internal things, because I've really kind of dug in and tried to learn more and more about this. But as far as caffeine, what it does, there's incredible videos out there. As far as they'll do a brain scan, have the person then come out, drink a mug of coffee, and go back in and see the changes in the oxygen level to the brain. Also leaching minerals from bones. We're not feeling demineralization and potential future osteoporosis issues. So for the people that say, oh, I gave it up and didn't notice a difference, so I went right back on. But, maybe you got to stay off long enough to really reap the benefit of better positive sleep changes. Some people say, well, I gave it up for a month and I didn't notice any difference, and I still have sleep problems. Well, it's important to really think about what is natural for us as animals to use to hydrate ourselves. It's water, mineral water, right? And coffee is not part of that. So do we think it's a health food, or are we just, again, like you said, doing something out of rote comfort and routine? And I just, yeah.
We've been using it as a drug. It's been used as a drug on us. Beer and bread, coffee and tea is a drug. And we've been duped to consume it. And there's so much, and even wine, red wine. So the American College of OBGYN, my colleagues recommend plant protein, plant-based diet, lean meats, chicken, fish, turkey. Limit your red meat, and red wine is okay for pregnant lactating women. And my grandson, just born about 6 weeks ago, is breastfeeding, while really sending my daughter a lot of red, beautiful fatty meat from Bighorn Mountain, and they're really focusing on that. And we need to do that, and we need to all share the fact that our addictions are part of our problem. But it's an addiction based on, we've been taught, oh, this is so good for you.
But and it's so normalized. And I showed a video. I was at the airport. It was an early flight. It was 6:30 a.m. I was dumbfounded at the line for Starbucks. I mean, I would have thought that, they were giving away a free car up ahead with what I saw queued up to get their cup of joe before they got on the plane.
Yeah, I think and you mentioned many of the diseases. So 99% of the toxins and pesticides are in the seeds and the plants. The seed is the progeny, that's the reproductive tissue of a plant. It's going to create everything to prevent its damage and disease. So in fact, it's made things to harm us. And maybe the use of Brewed coffee is less toxic than if you eat the seed, but it's certainly not non-toxic, and it will damage. Remember, what you breathe, drink, and eat that gets from your bowels to your blood vessels, lymphatics, are circulated to every single cell of your body. So just think of every disease we suffer from is really a disease of ingesting of foreign particles. Now, you can't live without eating something. Even the meat we eat contains some foreign particles that can be harmful to us. So, we're going to die. When and how we die, I don't know. So far, nobody I know lives to 150. And our odds of living to 500 years, you can go at it all you want, spend as much money as you want. I'm sticking to the idea that, I'm in the 100, maybe 110. Okay, get to 120, but I'm happy when God's ready, I'm going.
At that point, you're not flying your plane. So what the heck?
Yes. Yeah. I'll be soaring even above that, and I think faith and spirituality is the foundation of humanity. That's so important for all of us. But yeah, I agree with you, Lisa, that all these things, and every time we're traveling, look at, you go to the airports, and you go to the tax-free zones, right? They're selling, what are they selling? All the stuff we don't need. You're right. Alcohol, all the smelly stuff, and all the stuff that just isn't in our best favor.
Yeah, and forget about the duty-free shops. You go to the next shop, and it is just floor to ceiling with Pringles and Sour Patch Kids. And, I always get happy when I see some of them have a little section of beef jerky. But it's really interesting how toxic our world really is and how normalized all this is. So, talking about addiction and the whole caffeine coffee thing, because clearly, some might oppose that view, but it is an addiction. But let's talk a little bit about dairy, because dairy in particular is not allowed on Lion Diet. It is not allowed in the PKD strict. Dr. Sophia Clemens in Hungary, who heals, end stage cancers and, severe disease states, no dairy. She's emphatic about it increases your risk of certain types of cancer like breast and prostate. It's inflammatory. It's a substance that's intended to fatten the young of an animal. And, what are we really doing with this, and why? And it is addictive. It's got casomorphines and goes to opioids. And you can type in and do a Google search on the addiction of cheese. And I'm close to the president of that club. I think butter is in a different category, so we can talk about that. But in general, on my path of this, I know, maybe some hard aged Reggiano Parmesan. Yeah, I could see like there's a place to be able to do that from time to time. I do have that off of a charcuterie board if I'm out with people, kind of thing. But on a day-to-day basis, Lisa no longer keeps cheese in her refrigerator.
So why is milk addictive?
It's meant, I think, for the infant to want to then repeatedly feed from the mother.
Why are ripe fruits addictive? Same reason. In our evolution, when these things were available, we're meant to eat past this term satiety. I don't know what satiety means and all these hormones that everyone measures and say, oh, you got a problem with your ghrelin or all these hormones. And when in fact, we're supposed to overeat and get fat when food's available. Because when it's not, and you didn't overeat last week, you're dead. And so when we have to be careful a little bit about the term addiction. And it's quite likely the things we're addicted to in plants are in small amounts that aided us in consuming them in order to make sure, hey, this plant must have been less toxic for us than this plant, and we become accustomed to eating it. And just think of wheat and other foods that we consume, and rice and things like that. Now we had to properly prepare them in order to be less toxic, which we figured out how to do. So I think that I'm with you. I mean, I'll do cream, although I'm now thinking more towards like trying some goat's milk, just to test it out, because it's supposed to be closer to human milk a little bit, but I stick to not as much as frequently, but we're all going to die. How and when we die, nobody knows that. We haven't figured out whether carnivores are going to live 20 years, 10 years, or 5 years longer than anyone else at all yet. I fly planes, I drive cars. Cars are still one of the leading causes of death, and someone's going to hit you, you're going to go. And so, but what you have control over is, what? I noticed my arthritis, my psoriasis, or my ADHD, was my migraines. So I'm gonna be really strict. But I also noticed that if I only have a little bit infrequently, I feel fine. And I think that those are you're less likely to suddenly be diagnosed with cancer. I don't know that for sure. Nobody knows that for sure. But that's why I say if you minimize in small amounts and frequently of some of those things, and you do some cheese sometimes.
On a charcuterie board, the hard dried Parmesan. But you know what? I can't, I'm I'm a whole different category than you are, Rob. If I have a ball of fresh mozzarella in the fridge, it just keeps calling my name until I literally finish it. But I need to finish it before I go to bed, because I'm like, I just got to be done with this so I don't think about it tomorrow.
Well, mozzarella is a low-fat cheese, so I don't touch it. I stick to the higher fat cheeses, but I have small amounts infrequently, and also I make sure I often might, you go to the cheese shop or wherever you go and you buy a small amount. And I can go to the cheese shop here in Sarasota and they'll cut me just what I want. I'm not buying the whole thing, which is kind of a nice way to do things. And
portion control. That's portion control.
Right on. And I do believe we are all capable of changing our habits. For me, the biggest habit to change is what I did yesterday that I want to eliminate. Now, I might say, you know what, I'm done. And then I'm good at small amounts, and frequently I know the things that are less antigenic for me and less of an issue. That's kind of where I find myself. But each of us needs to find the power within. That's the most important part for this. And you're a really good savior for all of us, that you need the coach, the carnivore coach, Lisa, who's helping us on that, hey, listen, I need to be in this group to really help support me and where I'm at. I know that people talk about this and they're over there, but that's not me. So I'm finding a new coach and cheerleader, a group that's going to keep me in the line I want to be in. So I think that's really, really important to do. And again, I brought a little Parmesan. I brought a little bit of bacon and salami, which I enjoy small amounts. The bacon I'm pretty good, but I eat steak and salt and butter is and it's black and blue or raw. And that's the very best thing. I ate some bacon and eggs yesterday morning. And then last night, I was like, there was leftover bone and a couple of pieces of meat, at about 10 o'clock. I was wide awake. I actually stayed up to about 2 o'clock last night because I took a 3-hour nap. And I'm gonna apologize to Rena Aliwalia's group because I completely missed our meetup yesterday at 6 p.m. Because my calendars weren't synced properly, and I was so exhausted I actually slept through it. And then it was like 10 o'clock when I said, "Oh my God!" So, but I think that we need the groups. We need to find the right spot for where we're at today. And I don't care who you are, but carnivore is like the best thing for us. Now, interesting for the vegetarians, cream, eggs, butter, and cheese. And you're essentially in the animal-based world. And if you could focus on that and you could stay in your lane, you'll feel so much better than you'll ever believe it.
So you mean giving the vegetarian or vegan a segue into animal products by,
well, the vegan is harder, but as a vegan, if you so this is where maybe coconut oil or coconut milk or olive oil or hemp seed oils that may help you in that in some way. Cook the plant. Raw plants I think are not good for us. Now raw fruit, but again, you're still not getting all those massive B's, and you have to supplement if you're a vegan. Now, the vegetarian, if you throw in eggs, cream, butter, and cheese, like the whole egg, focus on the yolk, you're gonna get those things. But it's when you add the plant products where you get most of the antigenic and chemical compounds, which are harmful for humans in any significance or frequency, or unless you happen to be highly allergic and have an anaphylactic reaction.
Yeah, and it's all those, I have a lot of people who they're clinging for dear life to certain things. And I'll just throw out two of them: the artificial sweeteners, or somebody who's on decaf coffee. Oh, decaf's okay, right? And I'm like, you're just clinging to the habit. I say it's like you're all just changing seats on the Titanic. You're really, if you really want to get to down to really figuring out for yourself what you will ultimately live. Obviously, we're all looking for a long life, but a good quality of life. We don't want dementia. We don't want, stroke. We don't want debilitating joint pain so that we become less and less mobile. We don't want, of course, cancer. We don't want metabolic disease. There's all of these things that we are really striving to be optimally healthy, to live out our lives. And think long and hard of how you're getting there. Is what you're putting in your mouth leading to health or harm? Should this be water, or should this be decaf coffee, which has its own set of problems, and it also does still contain some caffeine and the pesticides and all that. But think long and hard. I always say that one thing you're grasping so tightly to is probably the one thing that would be most beneficial to give up.
Well, I focus my mindset on what I want, never on what I don't want. And you have to read The Secret. And I wrote a book, The Fertile Secret, and I've got a new book coming out, Christ Carnivore, and working on a new cookbook. And I always because we don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. And I always think, so if something happens that I didn't want to happen, then I'm going to be, oh my God, what did I do to make this happen? This should have never happened. I'm going to be going down the negative drain. I'm always grateful for whatever God gives me every single day. By the grace of God go I. Because let's just say we don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow, but we're grateful for our work we're doing today. And so all these diseases are kind of part of the human lexicon in ways that even us carnivores, may suffer from. And we want to be helping our brothers and sisters at all sides of the system to heal and be grateful for where we're at today. And so that's kind of why I learn it. That's why I think it's to be, oh my God, if you're not exactly this, you're going to be a problem. So I'm sort of finding myself, if you're suffering, this is probably the best place. If you're thinking, wow, I want to minimize to maximize, then this is the place. But we haven't really proven that in a way that we can say that completely. So that's why I want to invite us all into this and be open to all sorts of ideas. But
yeah, it's important. I've always said, have an open mind. I'm not dogmatic. I have people in my groups that are ketovore-ish, carnivore adjacent, whatever it is. It's all about figuring out for yourself what you do and do not have sober behavior around, because many who come into my groups struggle with food issues. But ultimately, it really comes down to figuring out for yourself gradually over time. Don't overthink it. So thank you so much for joining in. I know you have to run off and do your 10 a.m. live. And I appreciate our discussion, and I'm always anxious to hear your take on things, because it's funny. I had somebody over in the live chat that said they couldn't picture Dr. Kiltz as a gangbanger.
Well, this is, we find ourselves in places we don't understand why, and we have to look back at it and imagine it was all a gift from God. All of our lifestyles, our suffering is part of God's work in order to help us. And I know that Lisa's suffered, I've suffered, all suffered, and we're all growing and learning. And I grow and learn from Lisa and everyone here every single day. And I'm so grateful to be part of this. We're going to be, I think, are you coming with me to Yuma, Tennessee?
Yes, Tennessee, I am. It's halfway between Memphis and Nashville, and there's a Healing Humanity fundraiser event there. So I hope to see many of you there. Yeah.
We're all going to be there with our good inspiration, Dr. Ken Berry and others. We hope you're going to be there. We've got some upcoming things. Go to drkiltz.com. We're working on our Kiltz Health stage. We got Dr. Nelson on board, Ali on board. So I'll see everyone in a couple of minutes. I got to set up here. Lisa, I will see you this week one way or another. We love you and what you're doing in your whole community. So keep me in your prayers, please. And we'll keep you in our prayers.
Love you. Thanks. Bye.
God bless. Bye.